we were like, why won't you let us play your movies? And like, yeah, you just won't do well with them. Like, we just don't want to do it. You're not going to do well enough. And we said, what's the number that we have to hit? And they gave us this number, and it was like insultingly low. and I said, we'll double it. And they were like, well, we'll give you a shot. And we just about tripled the number opening weekend.
This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. Today on the podcast, we talk with Brandon Lott, an independent theater owner up in Idaho, and we answer the listener question about how to use short films strategically in your career as a filmmaker. You're going to like this one. It's episode 20 of Truly Independent.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us this week. I am thrilled with our guest this week, and we are excited to get started. Darren, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great, man. What a couple of weeks that we've had, and I'm really excited for the conversation today. You set up an amazing guest, so I'm just stoked to be here.
We have a lot to catch up on as far as Faith of Angels is going, and Carpenter is just around the corner, and we're going to get to that. But for now, we want to bring in our guest, Brandon Lott. So Brandon, just start us off. Tell us a little bit about what you do, kind of what's your day-to-day, and then our podcast, we're talking to independent filmmakers and what it is to put independent films in theaters, and which is why we're gonna grill you.
Perfect. So my dad, he actually started as a projectionist at Mann Theaters when he was 16. And just loved the theater industry, loved the film industry, and all the different ins and outs of 35 millimeter projectors, and took a couple years off to serve a mission for our church. And then when he got home, he stepped kind of into a management role. Fast forward several years, I was one, and mom and dad bought the Center in Idaho Falls. Back then it was just a single screen, built in the mid-teens. It used to be a vaudeville theater. When sound came out, in the late 20s, they turned it into a movie theater, and it's just a fun location. Since then, we've twinned it. The balcony's its own theater now. And then in 2000, they bought the Paramount, which back then was a triplex. And that's kind of when I started to, and I loved the theater. I grew up going with dad. Mom, dad worked on the weekends, selling tickets, popcorn, all that stuff. And I kind of grew up on a stool at the Center.
Are you just hanging out in the projection booth, just watching?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. And then when I was about 6, dad taught me how to run the register and count change back. And so from like 6 to like 10, I stood on a stool and sold tickets on the weekends. And some people thought it was fun. And we had a couple that were like, hey, don't you know about child labor laws? But I just grew up really loving and having a passion for the theater industry. In high school, I kind of stepped into a little bit of a management role, kind of just starting to learn more and do more and be more involved. Took a couple years to serve a mission for my church. And then after that, I stepped full time into management. Since then, we have bought a 7-plex in Blackfoot, Idaho. It was an old car dealership. And so dad's got his contractor's license. So we generaled it and did most of the work ourselves. So we kind of took a step away from running theaters and we built the theater.
Wow.
And then I stepped in and managed that full time, kind of got it rolling, hired all the staff, trained everybody. That was kind of my full-time thing for a couple years. And then I kind of started overseeing the 3 locations. And then during the pandemic, we really went boots on the ground and overseeing everything. And then since then, I've really just overseen everything. And, I've got a manager in Idaho Falls and a manager in Blackfoot, and I just check in with them every day and we just kind of take care of everything. I take care of all the bookings. I do all the scheduling. So both movie times, film scheduling, and our employee scheduling. And that's kind of, I hang out in the office behind the scenes, and then on the weekends I go down and sell tickets. And so it's kind of fun.
Wow.
It's such a smoothly run operation there. And just I was
Thank
up
you.
there last weekend for Faith of Angels, and Brandon gave us some screen. And on the night that I was there, he had it was what the movie screened to double attendance as the next next movie in the theater, which is great.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
built a community of fans there, and I think you it was fun to see. It occurred to me while we were there that as much as an independent filmmaker uh, I am, you are an independent theater operator, right? There's your big Hollywood chains or whatever. There's your Cinemarks and AMC's and Regals, and then there's this abundance of community, or I don't know what do you call? I mean, just independently run theater chains.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is interesting because over the years, especially when we just had when we had the Paramount and the Center, we were a discount house, and so we would play stuff off the break, and
What does
I don't
that
know, it
mean
just
off the
seemed like.
break for?
So the film opens, and then like your big chains, your first run theaters play it.
Yeah,
They play it until they're done with it, and then we kind of get the table scraps and the leftovers. And I don't know, it wasn't as fun for us. I mean, it was fun, it was enjoyable. We loved the movie thing, but we just felt like there was more, like we were missing out on something. And especially as I got home from my mission and kind of started to become more involved in the management side of it. Um, I'd see all these big opening weekends, and I'm like, I just want a piece of the pie here. Like
yeah,
we're doing okay, but we could kind of see the trend that playing films after it'd been out 8 weeks or 6 weeks was kind of going away.
yeah. Especially with streaming now
Redbox was
being right
becoming
on.
big,
Yeah,
streaming was starting to roll in. I mean, we could kind of just see the trend, and so we went first run at the Center, meaning we play movies as they open. And it's just two screens. We were very, very selective of what we brought in. But there was kind of this battle with some of the film companies. They're like, we don't know. Like, we're pretty happy doing what we're doing. We don't really know if we want to add more. And so,
you okay? So wait, so let me understand. So you were first run, but the film company, the distributors weren't necessarily knocking on your door saying, "Hey, play our movies."
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So we made this change. We went first run. We had to jump through some hoops to be able to do so, to be able to kind of meet their qualifications. There
Like
was a
quality, like
handful of
projector wise and sound wise, or
yeah,
seating, or
yeah, there was some sound requirements. Our price points had to be a little bit higher than what they were. Just different things like that. Kind of, yeah, just quality.
okay.
And so we did all those things. We raised our pricing at the Center. I mean, still we're $5 for a matinee, $7 for an adult in the evening. So I mean, still it's very affordable for a movie as it
Yeah,
opens.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's amazing that
and we had three.
they let you do that.
Yeah,
They let
we
you.
were kind of surprised
That's great.
that they let us. But we had three film companies right out the gate that were like, "No, we're not supporting you." And we had a couple that were like, "Yeah, we don't have a problem with this. Let's go ahead and do it." And we just exploded. I mean, we were just turning people away every weekend. I mean, we were half the price of our competitor, and so very community oriented, very family oriented. We just dominated with the family films, and like the date night stuff, the
Yeah.
young couples, young families that would come to.
Mm.
And then as the other film companies started to see our numbers, considering what we are, the other two of the three were like, okay, we'll give you a shot. The third film company, it took us about 6 years before they finally gave us a shot with something. And it was funny because when they gave us a shot, they said, we were like, why won't you let us play your movies? And like, yeah, you just won't do well with them. Like, we just don't want to do it. You're not going to do well enough. And we said, what's the number that we have to hit? And they gave us this number, and it was like insultingly low. and I said, we'll double it. And they were like, well, we'll give you a shot. And we just about tripled the number
Oh my
opening
goodness.
weekend. And it was crazy. I mean, like heaven involved. It was the perfect storm. It was a family movie. It was a 3-day weekend. and it ended up raining Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And so it was just
It's
like
perfect.
the perfect storm for a well performing film. And Monday or Tuesday, because of the holiday, we call this film company and we're like, hey, like, what do you think? And they're like, well, you did a lot better than we thought you would.
What a story, and congratulations. And it's understandable to see why, because it is very nice, very nice. You've got your laser projection and your nice seats, and it's very nice independent theater. You're
Yeah.
talking about working with film companies trying to get product, and it sounds like that's worked out. Um,
Yeah.
how much input do they have as far as what they're offering, or what's the issue there? Is it you want them to get product, or they want to control how many screens it's on, or
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of both. Like a big film will open and they'll ask for us to commit to two screens, there's been a lot of times, especially at the Paramount, it's a fourplex. And so if somebody comes in and says, we want you to give us two screens, and I got four screens total there,
yeah?
I just say, I give you one, but there's no way I can give you two.
With every film, is it a little bit of back and forth and negotiating?
No, I mean, it's usually the big ones,
Okay.
the big films that they're kind of expecting to be big. They'll ask, and it's interesting because there's not really a conversation. Back in the day, it was all over the phone. Booking movies on a Monday was like an all day event, and because you were calling each film company and there was this conversation, and you'd end up talking more about life than you did about the movie, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of this all day thing. Now nobody wants to talk on the phone. Everybody wants to just send an email, and I get it. It's fast, but the relationship aspect of it is non-existent now
Interesting.
with the film companies because I don't know if they've dropped their staff, and so they're overseeing a larger territory, larger footprint, and so they've got more to do. And so there's a couple film companies that if they've got something specific going on, then they'll make an effort to call. And one of the gals that they do this pretty consistently. Like generally, when we open a film, they ask a 2-week commitment. This film company, there's been multiple times, especially in the summer when they've got big stuff, the tentpole films, they'll ask a 3-week commitment.
Okay.
And so they'll make a phone call and, hey, we're doing things a little bit differently with this one. And they'll kind of communicate that. And I've asked her, are you calling everybody? And she's like, yeah, it'll take me probably 3 or 4 days to get through my list of people that I work with just to have this conversation with every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think they're busy. But I think the biggest thing for us, the biggest struggle, if you will, since the pandemic, I don't see a struggle to get product anymore.
Okay.
I think everybody's, and especially now that we've been first run playing movies as they open and we've developed this relationship, we always joke within our family that the first thing we do is we pay our tithing. The second thing we do is pay the film companies. Like we pay who feeds us, right?
Yeah.
And I think the film companies, they recognize that. I don't ever want to be somebody they call for money.
Yeah.
I want to be their easiest partner that they have. That there's just no worry. That they know that the lots are going to take care of them, and that they're gonna do what we agree to do. And I'm really big on communication that way. I mean, we've had a couple films, especially in the last month or so. September is usually kind of a slower month where we'll open a film and they ask the 2-week commitment and it just doesn't do well for us.
Yeah.
And so I'll call them on Monday and say, hey, did you see our numbers? And like, yeah, we saw the numbers. And I'm like, is there any way you'll work with us and let us maybe do a split screen instead of a full schedule? And usually they're like, yeah, we'll work with you on something like that.
Yeah.
And it'd be really easy for me to just do it and hope that they don't notice and just move on with life. But I don't want to be the person that hey, we noticed that you're only playing this 2 times instead of the 4 times like we asked. What's going on? And so I think that's a big thing is we just want to be fair and do what we say we're gonna do and treat it the way that play by the rules, I
Yeah, so
guess.
there's a lot of lessons in there, not just for people who are in your industry or on your side of the industry, but I think for independents as well. The way you talk about relationships, the way you talk about communication. But a question that we have is like, how does the indie filmmaker get in there, right? Because if you've got an oversupply of product, let's call it product,
Yeah.
from the big theaters or the big studios, the distributors that have the number one film opening weekend, and there's 5 movies that are already clamoring for your 4 screens, what's the strategy or what works or what success have you seen from independent filmmakers to be able to book your screen and get in there and have some of the success and be able to connect with the audience that you've built?
Yeah. No, I think that definitely recognizing the time of the year. It seems like end of the summer going into September, those are always really popular months for independent films, independent film company type things, and they do well. Faith of Angels, to me, this was a perfect timing because it was kind of in the low of like summer blockbuster hits, and it's before the Thanksgiving and the holiday stuff. And this is a film that, I mean, Southeast Idaho, very family oriented and faith oriented. And it's interesting because this film is like our Sunday numbers are better than I thought they would be. We're open on Sundays, and they do well enough to be open. And it's kind of this debate in our house on are we doing the right thing by being open on Sundays? Are we not doing the right thing by being open on Sundays? But we've chosen to be open on Sundays. And yesterday I was at lunch down in Blackfoot, and this older couple comes up to me, and they're like, we were at the theater on Sunday and we had an amazing experience. And I'm like, oh, what did you see? And she's like, we saw Faith of Angels, and it was and she's starting to get emotional. And she's like, it was an absolutely amazing experience. She goes, I needed to see that film. And Faith of Angels is probably not a Sunday film for us. Usually that's something we're like, okay, we're gonna have 1 or 2 people in there, but its numbers are doing well because our community is so faith based and Christian based. And so I think that, going back to your question, timing is probably the biggest thing, and then just knowing our market. The other thing is being flexible with, like we had a film a couple weeks ago that they said, we're not asking a clean schedule, every single showtime on one screen. We're just asking 1 or 2 shows. Whatever you can give us, we'd love to have it on screen. And so we worked around a film that we'd had a little bit longer, that the 12 o'clock show wasn't doing super well for it anymore. And so we gave this one, and we kind of just, anytime we can be flexible. I love when a film company says, your market better than we do. So if it's going to work for you, it works for us. And I really appreciate that trust and that relationship.
So maybe you can touch on this a little bit. I know Garrett and I have kind of talked about it from our side of things, but the difference between booking a movie for your theater and then scheduling it, what are some of the considerations that you're making every day, especially those Monday calls where you're going, okay, what's the next week look like? What's the, that's the constant hamster wheel you guys are on. But talk to the audience who may not have distributed a movie before, but that's the dream, is to get a movie in theaters. Because those are 2 different things. How do you see them, and what do they need to be thinking about with those 2 aspects?
Yeah. So like typically every week I look at our numbers on how each film did.
So you're talking about
And then I
revenue?
look at just the how many tickets were sold and the dollar of the gross. And I rank them highest to lowest. And then it's really easy. I look at, okay, we got 2 movies coming out this weekend, or 1 movie coming out this weekend. So theoretically, I've got to have 1 screen wherever we're going to put this. So I have the decision to make of this movie that opens this weekend. Is it going to do better than my worst film on my list at this location?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then I drop whatever's at the bottom, and I kind of rotate the films through. If the answer is no, then I don't book the film.
Wow.
And there's been some that we've missed out on, that we've just like, okay, let's wait a couple weeks. The other thing is, there's a film that actually opens this week that we missed in Idaho Falls. And when I called her yesterday to let her know, hey, I don't have room for it this week, she said, let's follow up next week. a lot of the big film companies, if you miss it on opening weekend, they make you miss it for 2 weeks. Where I might have room for it week 2, but they're not going to let me bring it in till week 3. And by then, I've probably moved on. My audience has moved on. The Paramount didn't get it, and here 2 weeks goes by, and so then they've either already gone and seen it at our competition, or they've moved on to whatever is next in their lives. And so being flexible is really, really big. You know, hey, two shows or one show or whatever you can give us, or let's check in next week and see if next week makes more sense. Especially if, you know, I've got a 2-week commitment on something and I'm committed. You know, maybe it would make sense to bring this film in, but I'm committed. I can't. My hands are tied. Essentially, I can't bring this in because I've got these commitments already. But next week, I'm out of these commitments.
Have you ever had an independent do a commitment, or is it only the studios that have that sort of leverage to where they could say you have to play it for at least 2 weeks? Because we're sitting here going, man, that'd be really nice on some of these theaters to have word of mouth play out.
Yeah, the word of mouth is what plays for this one.
Yeah, no, it's always been the big studios that do the commitment.
Yeah,
and you know, like I get it. They've got a lot of leverage and a lot of years ago. I didn't bring a film in from a big studio. It was an R-rated film. I knew it wasn't going to do super well. I was very hesitant to, every time they'd reach out, hey, do you want to book this? Let me look and see where we're at as we get closer. I didn't bring the film in. And my next film that I brought in, because with the big studios, you'll book the film, and then afterwards, as the film's getting ready to come out, they'll give you the terms of your ticket sales. This is the percentage that you'll pay us. For their next film, it was substantially higher. And I thought, I'm not going to rock the boat.
The terms
but I'm pretty sure they did that because I didn't bring their last film in. And, you know, the thing that I love about independence is I get the email of what the film is. There's a trailer. There's generally a screener so I can watch it. You know, there's all the information, and then the terms are in there as well. These are what we're doing. And so I know exactly 100% what I'm getting into before I get into it.
How much of a negotiation are the terms and bookings and things like that?
Terms, there's zero negotiation. There's one film company that they will give you choices. You can do weekly terms that kind of fluctuate and change.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really high week 1, and then it kind of scales down. Or you can do like an aggregate term that's just the same every single week. Everybody else just tells you what it is.
Is it usually an aggregate term, or is it a week?
Yes. Yeah, usually an aggregate term.
And are they let's get specific here. That's what this podcast is all about. And you haven't revealed any names, so you're safe here, buddy.
Yeah.
But are they typically 50-50 splits with the theater, or what are theaters, or what are the big studios able to dictate with those terms?
We're getting upwards of 60 to mid 60s
for them. So they're getting 60%.
They're getting 60%.
Yeah.
If it's a weekly term, 9 out of 10 times, week 1 is 70%.
Wow.
And then week 2 is 60, 50, 40, 40, 35, and then 35. I've seen just a handful of times in all the years I've done this, it drops below 35%.
Wow.
And so a lot of those ones, if I go, okay, this is a kid's movie, we're going to play it for 6 or 8 weeks. Let's go weekly on this. Let's take a beating week 1, and then it's still going to do well for us in week 6 or 7 because it's a family film. We'll make up for it then. But everything else, if it's like, we're probably going to be 2, maybe 3 weeks on this. Let's just hit this at the aggregate. Your high 50s to mid 60s. I've seen a couple big blockbusters that are high 60s.
So let's see, I'm stuttering and stammering because I want to try to figure out how to say this. You're getting 40% as a theater owner or whatever in general on those titles. Is that consistent with independent film?
No. Most independents I've seen is a 50-50 split.
Yeah, 50-50. Okay.
Well,
your story checks out.
We know because we have the numbers. Gosh, that's really cool though. I think I just want to process for a second. I think we could do this after our conversation too, Garrett. But like the fact that the studios have that kind of leverage, where we're sitting here on the indie side going, man, we'd give anything for any amount of leverage right now. Where at times it feels like we're even begging for screens, and begging for people to hold our movie for a second week so that word of mouth can actually benefit them, and we have no leverage. And that's not to cry, woe is me, but it's like, wow, that's really inspiring that at some point, all these big studios were little indies as well. Even that, whether that was 100 years ago or 20 years ago, but they figured it out, right? And so that's kind of the approach for us indies as well. Is like, okay, well, where can we create and find leverage for our movies? And not to bury the lead, but I think it comes down to audience. If we could say, we know that 10 million people are going to see this movie this weekend, do you want a piece of that? The leverage is kind of on our side, or it's at least balanced. Whereas, hey, we're hoping 30 people come to your theater this weekend compared to the big studio opening. Yeah, it makes sense, perfect sense, why a theater like yours with 4 screens would pick the one that's going to deliver. So all that to say, thanks for booking our movie.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. So, Brandon, as an independent filmmaker, or as you're working, I mean, you've got your main industry, right? You're working with all these big distributors, and then you have a little indie film or indie distributor that knocks on your door and says, "Hey, would you play this little indie? Take a risk on it. We don't know if it's going to be better than your number 8 movie in your screen." What can we do as independent filmmakers to make your decision easier?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple things come to mind right out the gate. The first is, just because it's a big studio doesn't mean it's a good film. We've had a lot of political agendas and different agendas that have been pushed within movies. Like, it used to be that a kids movie was a kids movie and you just took the family to it. We're finding now more that parents are coming and screening the kids movie before they bring their kids to it. I know my wife and I, that's how we feel. Like,
Yeah.
just because it's a kids movie or a certain brand or film company doesn't mean you just take your kids to it anymore. And people are going to the theater as an escape. It's a staycation. They're going to get away from the dishes and the monotonous stuff
Yeah,
of home.
sure.
And like during the pandemic, that was really eye opening to me, because there were several films that just went straight to streaming, and people, as we talk to them in the community and talk to them at the theater and different things, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we rented that and watched it." No, oh, how was it? It was a good movie, but we really missed the theater. Oh, interesting. What did you miss about the theater? Well, we paused it to answer the door, and our kids were texting, and we paused it to go to the bathroom, and it just a 2-hour movie took us 4 hours to watch, and it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And I think that, knowing that, like, I really, really appreciate, Garrett, your approach as we talked this last weekend, and your approach to your projects. And you look at the projects and you look at what makes sense to me, what's a story that needs to be told, what's something that's going to be touching and tug at the heartstrings of individuals. And there's a message, but there's not this hidden agenda. I'm going to push this message. It's just like a story. And it's just, for 2 hours, we're going to just take your mind off of the dirty dishes and we're going to tell a story. And so I think that the quality of content goes a long way. The word of mouth, boom, 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 like, hey, you got to go check this out. Hey, you got to go see this, sharing it on social media, those types of things. And then just being flexible and knowing like it's fun for me to go back and look at your numbers of week 1 versus week 3 versus, as it continues on down the road. And I think that I have to have that approach going into it. A week 2, I look at it and I go, okay, we could have been stronger here, but we just had this event. Garrett was here. There's going to be some word of mouth. I've had 3 mutual groups reach out to me yesterday that want to come see your film next week, because they had somebody that was there this last weekend that saw it.
Yeah.
And so for me, knowing that that's going to happen.
Yeah, it really is interesting. I mean, with this film specifically, with Faith of Angels, that's what we're seeing, repeatedly, and that's location independent. So, Darren goes out to Dallas for a weekend to do some screenings. And then the following week, Dallas is one of our highest performing areas. And it is
Yeah.
such a word of mouth thing. And, that's probably a conversation for marketing. But we're so appreciative of those theater owners that, yes, we know that maybe this is a little bit out of the norm. Say, hey, yeah, we're going to show up in your theater and invite people to, ask questions about the movie. That may or may not occur frequently, but we have seen that has been a strategy that has helped the movie, help the numbers do better.
Yeah.
So we're always appreciative of that.
I think that even like to go along with that, the like your welcome at the beginning of the movie that you did, like those types of things people remember.
Mhm.
I remember after the pandemic, Tom Cruise did that welcome at the beginning of Top Gun, and like people love Top Gun. But I think people appreciated just coming out of where we were as a world and as a
Yeah,
nation of the pandemic we were just in. People appreciated that he appreciated them, and it was a 30-second clip at the beginning of the movie, but like people talked about that as they were leaving. Like, how was the movie? What did you think? And we try to visit with people as they're leaving, and thanks for coming, and letting them know that we appreciate them. And it seems like that's what people talk about. Like this last weekend, people are like, "Oh, that welcome, that intro was so fun," with you and your son, and like those are the things that I think that set set those films apart, if that makes sense.
sure. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's easy to copy something that's left an impact on me as well. Brandon, you've been super generous with your time. We have time for probably one more question. And Darren, I don't know if you have one. I wanted to talk briefly about the building the program. You showed me kind of the trailers and how you, as a theater owner, are essentially building the entire presentation for an audience. Where I'm buying a ticket to the movie, but somebody, the man upstairs, Brandon Lott, is programming trailers and deciding really what my experience is in that movie. Can you give us an overview on how that works, how you decide what trailers to use and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So, we kind of get suggestions from the film companies every week. Um, some of them, they ask, "Hey, some of the film companies, they tell us we got to have two trailers that are our films on our movie." And we'll see that over a Thanksgiving, a Christmas, a big blockbuster over the summer. But for the most part, there's I take them as suggestions. I don't know if that's what they're meant to be, but I take them as suggestions. And I just try to kind of match the feel or the genre to the genre. So we have a specific trailer pack that we put on our kids' movies, and they're all kids' movies. We're not going to put something weird or out of the ordinary or a scary PG-13 movie on a kids' movie, right? And that kind of follows in line with the suggestions. But like The Carpenter, I know that that's a film that's going to be very similar audience base as Faith of Angels. And so we trailered that and put it the very last trailer before the movie on Faith of Angels, knowing that this is the same audience. We're wanting this group to come back in a couple months and see this again. And another thing that's silly to me but is important to me is our poster placement. Um,
Hmm.
Carpenter is right there as you round the corner. It's the first thing you see as you go in, and we just like it's just that the subliminal messages of getting it in front of people and getting them thinking about it, and so I'm very OCD and picky about our trailer pack playlist and our poster and banner placement.
Well, as an indie filmmaker, I'm grateful that you are, because going up there last weekend and yeah, seeing the trailer for Carpenter for my next movie play on my current movie was a thrill. And then coming out and seeing the poster and taking pictures with people in front of the posters. We work so hard as indie films, and we're already battling the studios. And
Yeah,
the worst is to like try to battle the 16-year-old kid that has no idea what the movie is, and he's just like, "Oh, you have a trailer or I think the poster's somewhere around here." And
yeah.
we didn't see that at all in your space. So you restore hope in what we're trying to do.
Well, thank you so much. The biggest thing for me is like I'm passionate about this. There's not a lot of days that it feels like I'm going to work.
Yeah.
Like I get up in the morning and I'm excited to go and sit in the office and do these types of things. And like things like this are fun for me. And like it's just really enjoyable for me. It's something, it's not just what puts food on the table. It's I enjoy doing it. I love doing it.
It's awesome. Thanks so much
You
for
can
your
tell.
time. It was great meeting you, and thank you for all the support for our movie. It's been amazing.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Okay, Brandon, look forward to coming back up there for the Carpenter sometime in November.
Awesome.
I'm going to make that trip
Perfect.
too, Garrett. I want to
You need to
come
come with
shake
me.
this guy's hand.
Yeah,
That'd
for
be
sure.
fun. No, that'll be really fun.
Awesome.
So it'd be fun to spend some time with you guys.
All right, man.
Hey, indie filmmakers and movie lovers. This show is sponsored by Purdy Distribution. Since 2011, they've been bringing incredible independent films to theaters, like Garrett Batty's The Saratov Approach, T.C. Christensen's Love Kennedy, and McLean Nelson's Once I Was a Beehive. They've worked with top-notch directors like Mitch Davis and Mark Goodman, specializing in family, faith-based, and funny films. This year alone, they've released hits with JK Studios like Go West and Villains Inc., and have even branched out internationally with films shot in South Africa and Japan. Purdy Distribution works closely with indie filmmakers, designing personalized distribution plans, whether it's a theatrical release or straight to streaming on platforms like Amazon, iTunes, Google, and more. If you have a PG or PG-13 film ready for the world, think about reaching out to Purdy Distribution. They're approachable and knowledgeable, ready to help you visualize your film's distribution. Even if your film isn't fully polished, they can offer valuable guidance. Plus, if you need that crucial distribution piece for investor packages, Purdy Distribution can provide a letter of intent to distribute, helping you secure funding without locking you into a contract. Mark your calendars for Purdy Distribution's upcoming releases: Tokyo Cowboy on August 30th, the digital release of Thabo and the Rhino Case on September 1st, Faith of Angels in theaters on September 12th, Villains Inc. on Amazon and iTunes on October 1st, and The Carpenter on November 1st. To stay updated on these releases and more, sign up for their newsletter at purdydistribution.com. That's Purdie distribution.com. Now, back to the show. Man, that was super enlightening to hear, because generally the booker and the manager are different people. When we're dealing with Cinemark or AMC or even Megaplex, you've got a booker that you're dealing with, and then you're manually going over to the theater to make sure the manager at the theater got the memo to hang up these posters and put a standee there and play our trailer and all that stuff. So it's really eye-opening to see that one person handling both sides of the process. And honestly, I think how much better it is for our movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what that really was the light bulb moment for me. Talking with Brandon last week while they're going, we're indie filmmakers. Like we're kind of in this like scrappy mode on we got to figure out how to break the wall down. And he is an indie theater owner, and there are hundreds, of indie theaters all over the country. And I think going forward, like that's a market or a relationship that would be worth forging with other indie theater owners.
Yeah, I'm sitting here processing it going, man, the biggest takeaway for me is how much leverage these studios have. But that wasn't gifted to them because they said, we're a studio. Like they earned it, whether they realize it or not. And maybe they think they have to re-earn it every time by spending $100 million on marketing their $100 million movies. But the fact that they know they can drive people to theaters for the most part gives them a lot of leverage. And we saw that play and how it plays out week to week for an independent theater owner like Brandon. But I'm curious, this is the part of my brain that some people do not like. But like, is there a strategy where you exclusively release your movie in independent theaters and say, hey, we're going to strike a fair deal. It's going to be 50-50. We're going to give you plenty of lead time. We're going to give you all the materials. We're going to treat you fairly. We're going to do everything you need. We're going to come to your theaters instead of premiering at Megaplex or Cinemark. We're going to come to you. Like if you got a 400, 500 seat theater, we'll come do it or whatever. And just say, look, we're creating an independent film ecosystem here. And we don't need people that are going to treat our film the way that some of the bigger chains or circuits treated our film by saying, oh, it didn't make enough money, so we're out. And it's not it's not an emotional decision. It's purely a financial one.
I think so. I mean, I think that that's a great way to get started, and it would be like, again, pitching to the Independent Cinema Alliance, where yes, you are pitching to 88 theater owners that represent 4,000 screens, which is essentially the third largest chain, next to AMC and is it Regal or AMC and Cinemark. 4,000 screens is substantial.
Yeah.
We don't open on 4,000 screens. We opened Faith of Angels. Our wide release was 375.
Yeah.
Surely we could, use independent theater owners to really kind of maximize that effort.
Well, and going back to our strategy that we talked about many episodes ago of like, let's identify the theaters that did the best, right? What if I'm curious, I want to actually go look at this. How many of those theaters that did 5,000 plus in revenue over the length of the run for our comparable films, how many of those were independents? And if there's 100 or 200, could we have exclusively gone with them and said, hey, we're not going to take the 40 or 45% cut. We're going to do 50-50, which means we make more money opening weekend. Right. And B, they're going to be promoting us better because they're not promoting 30 films or 24 films or 18 films. They're promoting 4. And they probably have a direct relationship with their audience through email and social media. So if we did co-op spend with them, it would be more effective because it wouldn't be so diffused.
Right.
Like all of these things come into play when you start thinking about that potential strategy. It's like, man, what if we band together and we just say, hey, sorry, big theater chains, if you want us, you got to play by our deal. Oh, you want us in Cinemark or Megaplex? Great. Here are our terms. You have to hold us 2 weeks. You have to do 50-50 or else we're not playing games. But I honestly think that's possible. We just have to believe that it's possible first.
Yeah, it would definitely be a new approach, a new strategy. It would be fun to try to prove that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think if I were the theater owner, I go, look, I'm an indie theater owner, but that doesn't mean I just want no-name movies. Like I want to have a good relationship with the Disneys and the Warner Brothers and things like that. So there's that trade-off of like, that's nice that that's your strategy, guys, but we're trying to run a business here,
Yes,
So,
you have to be able to get the audience there to back up the partnership, right? If you're just bringing a movie and no audience and no money to the table, that's not a great partnership. But if you're saying, hey, we have a $500,000 marketing budget, we're going to split it $1,000 per theater or $5,000 or whatever the numbers work out to be, they're going, oh, well, that's really cool. Let's talk. So I don't know. I'm going to be thinking about that quite a bit after this conversation.
It makes me want to go look back at our numbers. For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of numbers, do we want to look at box office now that we're at the end of the...
do want to look at box office numbers. I also want to talk to our audience and see which segments they like the best. So we're trying a new thing today and saying, let's put the title of the podcast content right up front.
Yeah. Which would be great.
And I think that's going to serve us. We got to be strategic about the distribution of our YouTube videos and podcasts as well. So it extends beyond just our movies.
We also did receive a listener question.
Ooh, very nice.
That I want to address. So box office, let's pull that up. We've got this weekend. Again, we're recording this on October 8th. So we're just coming off of Joker's first weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Poor reviews, but and surprisingly low numbers from what Deadline is saying. 37 million domestic gross. I think they were hoping for more.
They were definitely hoping for more. I mean, the first Joker did over $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah,
and opened. It was the largest October opening ever for a film.
It was the number 1 R-rated movie until Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool, yeah. So they really fumbled that one. And there's plenty of speculation on the internet that you can go find if you want to see
as to why. I think poor reviews is what I've read most about.
Yeah. What I do notice, like week to week, though, is that as you go week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, it's an average of like 40% drop every week, and so that's such an interesting thing to note as movies kind of go along. Not as many. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, I was wrong. 11 first week opening movies this weekend. A lot of indies that are opening on 2 screens, 18 screens, 2 screens, 23, 7. So that was interesting. And we talked about this last week, I think, where like the Outrun number 16 movie did 334,000. Oh no, that's not the one. I was trying to. Oh, there it is. Look Back, number 12, movie called Look Back. Distributor was G Kids, and 2 screens for a per screen average of $344,000. What is that? How is that happening? How do you get 340 grand on 2 screens for a weekend?
Are you going to solve that for us?
I'm gonna call G Kids and be like, "Tell me what's happening here, please."
Solve it for us, because I'd love to know. I mean, that's obviously a some sort of manufactured number. That movie has done 10 million already worldwide, so it's imported. But I mean, what is that concept of a movie doing 30 million, or excuse me,
300,000
300,000 on a screen?
on 2 screens. Yeah,
I want to be that theater owner.
it's crazy. But another big weekend where like the number 10 movie was $1 million box office. Megalopolis in its second week made $1 million, which is a 73% drop over week 1, which is unfortunate. I better go see that before it's out of theaters next week. I hope. I mean, I've heard mixed reviews, but I really want to go see it because Francis Ford Coppola is one of our, legends of filmmakers in the history of film. So like, I want to go support that movie. But yeah, crazy.
Well, okay, so that's a good box office. Is there an example of our model working for Carpenter? We've got The Substance at number 9. I guess, that's been out, but it's on 600
it's
screens.
The third week.
686 screens, and
I think it's this.
made the top 10.
Sam and Colby, The Legends of the Paranormal, 302 screens, 5,800 per screen average, number 6 on the box office. And I don't see.
Well, yes, here's the theory on that. I think Sam and Colby are YouTubers, right? They have a massive YouTube following, and so they have an audience. They've built an audience.
Yeah.
And now, good for them for being able to reach out and make their audience, paid. Attend a new medium, a new venue to see them, but it works. So
when it was distributed through AMC theaters, so they're using the same model as Taylor Swift and Beyonce, and saying, "Hey, we have an audience somewhere else. We want to bring them to theaters. We don't want to do the traditional distribution route where we give away so much of our money." So I'm curious what the AMC deal looks like. Do they take a cut as a distributor as well as a theater? Or are they just saying, be exclusive to our theaters, we'll do 50-50 or 60-40, and it's just like any other deal? But look at that, 302 screens. It worked perfectly. They made 1.7 million in their opening weekend as first-time filmmakers. Like that's it, right? That's the difference between having an audience that you can bring to the 300 theaters and having not enough, having empty seats, having a less than $1,000 per screen average your opening weekend. So there it is. Still works.
Okay, here's a listener question for this week. This is from JR at Big Room Sound. It says, just want to say thanks from Toronto, Canada. I'm a sound designer, mixer of 25 years, who's prepping to shoot his first narrative short film in November. Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Yeah, that's huge.
I've been on a bit of a mission since a friend gifted me the book Launch by Jeff Walker to figure out how to actually get people to watch, maybe even pay to watch my short when it's done. I can't remember exactly how I stumbled onto your podcast. Okay. Been binging in the car for a couple of weeks. It's very enlightening. Thanks, JR. There have been a number of takeaways I consider the bigger picture of pursuing indie filmmaking. I've started my mailing list. It's just 60 names so far, but it's been a big encouragement having people show their enthusiasm for this endeavor. Dude, he's building an audience. I love it.
So good.
Curious to ask about big picture plans for directors, producers just starting out. If the short goes well, still trying to figure out exactly what that means to me, which is great to be able to define that. Then I have another short I'd like to make, and if that goes well, I have 2 ideas for features based on the characters from these shorts. What would you guys say constitutes success with a short film, and what should be some objectives or goals you would consider for determining that success? And he
I
says,
like
for what
this
it's worth, I'm
question.
making faith-based films as a
Awesome.
conservative evangelical Christian. JR, man, thank you for reaching out. Thanks for the question. Darren, you want to take a crack at that?
Oh, I got thoughts. So there's this concept called the domino theory, right? Which is if a domino can knock over another domino 1.2 times its size. And so if you stack up a 5 millimeter domino in front of a 7 meter, in front of a millimeter, et cetera, it goes to an inch, to 2 inches, to 10 inches, to, by domino 50, you're knocking over a domino the size of the building. And it all started with a little 5 millimeter domino. And so part of what you're doing with this short strategy is saying, okay, this is the lead domino. This is my little 5 millimeter high domino that I'm going to place down on the ground with a pair of tweezers. And I'm going to knock over the next one. So part of what you have to do is think about what is the next one and have that in mind so that when you play out the strategy for the short film, you've either got, here's my next one, or you've got like what we're doing with Faith of Angels and the Carpenter. We know that Carpenter's coming next, so we put the trailer for the Carpenter on Faith of Angels, and we can guarantee that everyone who sees our first movie sees our second one. So part of it is really clarifying the outcome that you're after and saying, okay, the next thing I want to do is direct a bigger short or another short. And then after that one, I want to do this feature, which is going to be $150,000, $500,000, $1 million budget. And if you can really clearly outline what the outcome is, then you can start thinking about how to reverse engineer a strategy where this first domino will help you knock over the second one, which helps you knock over the third one. So you're constantly thinking 1 or 2 dominoes ahead so that when the domino you're on falls, it's got something to hit and continue that momentum.
I love that. And you just pulled that out. That's impressive, Darren.
I talk about this stuff all the time. Yeah. That's just off the top of my head.
I have on my wall, and maybe this is too, revealing too much about my need for self adoration. Just a certificate from the first film festival that I entered. It was a short film, and it did well. I guess to Jared's question, how do you measure the success of a film? I don't know. We had a short film, and it won the short film contest that it was in. So I have that certificate on my wall and say, look, I think that that's a good measure. Did it elicit the response from the audience that I was hoping that it would get? And it did. They laughed in the right places, not in the wrong places, and the judges saw it as something that did well. And so it's a good way to measure that. And from that short, the editor of that short, I brought on as an assistant for my first feature film, and some of those cast members were involved. And so I think that, like you say, the dominoes are these building blocks from your short film. It's not just about creating that film or that story, but it's about auditioning the crew. Like, is this a group that I can make the next step with? And if they are great, if not, you sub out. You sub your starters out, and you're not. Again, you're building a team that has the same vision as you, that is going to help get this feature film made.
Yeah. That's really cool. I don't have too much to say about the strategy of short filmmaking because I've helped produce some, but not ones that I've originated and been like, this is going to help me get X, Y, or Z. It was just helping a friend out, right? One thing to add on to what you said is this idea of, is it remarkable? So how do you measure remarkable? Well, you could take it literally. Are people saying things about it? Is it remarkable? Did someone write up a review? Did someone take a picture of the poster and put it online and say something unprovoked? Are people coming up to you afterwards and saying, oh my gosh, that really resonated, and they're remarking to you, the filmmaker, how it affected them? And that's a big thing to measure, because if you screen a short at a festival and nothing is said about it and it doesn't win any awards, it doesn't mean it was bad. It just means it wasn't remarkable. And you kind of need to have something remarkable in order to get the momentum that takes you to the next project. And so I really encourage a lot of filmmakers to think about that what is remarkable about this? How do I position it? What festivals am I going to choose so that I have the highest chance of it being remarkable? So that you can build that momentum. Otherwise, like it's such a competitive landscape in every aspect, whether it's films or documentaries or shorts, where you kind of have to be one of the best in a crowd in order to let that move you to the next step.
Yeah, which is totally doable. Just keep at it. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, Darren, another good episode in the books.
Mm-hmm. I like that one. This is gonna be our domino that gets us to the next step in podcast land.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to see the podcast written up in Deadline, in associated with Faith of Angels. So
whoever did that for us, thank you. Probably Kirk, right? But like the fact that it got a mention was like, oh dang. Let's put it this way, though. I think it's an important note. Did not move the needle for our podcast listeners. So, amazing accolade to say we've got written up in Deadline for a movie. But you always have to keep your eye on the prize and go, oh, is it helping me get the goals that I have? And if not, maybe spend your efforts elsewhere.
Okay, speaking of efforts, this week we're going to be in San Diego screening The Carpenter. I guess by the time this podcast airs, we will have screened in San Diego, Atlanta, and Salt Lake. Actually, no, we probably have to air this next week.
We do have to air this next week. Okay. Yeah, we are not ahead in our schedule right now because we've had a movie in theaters, so we have a good excuse.
Okay, so Carpenter is coming out November 1st.
Yeah.
Be sure to get your tickets, and it's nationwide, so you should have a theater somewhere close to you. Might be an independent theater now after talking with Brandon. So,
head over to carpentermovie.com. You can get tickets there. It'll show you what's playing or where it's playing near you. And it's full hard pivot into Carpenter mode for the next few weeks.
And Faith of Angels is still in theaters and performing. I think we've booked. Purdy has booked another dozen theaters to add for this coming week, and so keep looking for that in your theaters.
Yeah, I'm excited to track the independents going forward because those are the ones that are booking now. Maybe they didn't have room opening weekend because Wild Robot was out, but now they do because this weekend was all about Joker, and they're like, oh, we're going to program
a family
Faith, right? Yeah. So I'm really excited to see the legs that this movie has and how the independents really help us out. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Talk
soon with you next week.
See you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified of new episodes and screenings, and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this episode with a friend. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.